Hello, I'm just going to introduce myself now. My name is Alvin Lim. I'm the Assistant Director of Asia Shakespeare Intercultural Archive, or otherwise known as ASIA. To my right is...
My name is Ken Takiguchi. I'm a PhD candidate from Department of Japanese Studies, and I'm a translation editor of ASIA.
And this is...
I'm Shreyoshi Mukherjee. I'm a PhD student in the ASIA project, and I also work as a sub-editor.
My name is Daphne, and I am also a sub-editor of ASIA, as well as helping out with marketing and publicity at the moment.
Okay, I think we're all here to sort of have a discussion and kind of dialogue among ourselves about, and also kind of introduce you to our project. Well, ASIA, or Shakespeare Intercultural, Shakespeare's Intercultural Archive, can be summed up by 4 words that constitutes the archive's name, namely Asia Shakespeare Intercultural Archive. Asia, as part of a larger initiative called Relocating Intercultural Theatre, ASIA aims to share approaches to performing Shakespeare in East and Southeast Asia. It also aims to provide a kind of platform to generate our own regional academic discourses and research topics, not to challenge those from the West, but really to diversify the approaches and perspectives and challenge existing base assumptions. After all, when the idea of Shakespeare embodied the work as classics of Western dramatic form, as the playwright with the strongest claim to universal appeal, as cultural capital, as most people would see his face on books, on CDs and DVDs, and also as the standard bearer of the English language, because after all, our O-level and A-level students in Singapore have to study Shakespeare. So how does this idea of Shakespeare interact with Asian performance forms and cultures? How does these interactions or even tensions allow us to rethink, reimagine, and even reproduce what we perceive Shakespeare as? So what this intercultural archive is really about is to describe this whole ongoing process, this whole intercultural process as something ongoing. It's not simply to put one Shakespeare on one hand and another Asian art form on the other. It's really to find a way where we can build a community of really multicultural group of students, scholars, practitioners, yes. And we aim to build a community where intercultural possibilities can happen, where one engages actively and interactively with this ongoing process of learning, relearning, and understanding of a dynamic field of intercultural theatre. Hence, we're not really an archive, as most of you would really realize, busy collecting materials like Shreyoshi, having to keep all the DVDs in the cupboard, and then putting it up on a digital online archive. What we really believe we are doing here is that we are providing a very useful resource for research, for even as a teaching tool. And it's precisely because we provide this convenient access to the above interactions why I talk about Shakespeare and Asia. Many of us can then understand how all these things, how these Asian intercultural productions can teach us a lot about what we perceive and what we have all this while assume as. And so, for example, we don't really have the time or even the money to travel all the way to Japan, to India, or to Korea just to watch those productions, and they don't run for the whole year or for many years. So what we actually provide is a kind of an online portal where they can just go there, access our videos, check the information through our search functions, and find out about these productions. It might not be the best. I mean, after all, if you watch, it's always best to watch a performance in the theatre itself, but because this would then be the second best alternative available online if you're not able to catch it live. So this is our way of contributing to the community, not only to the practitioners, but also to students and scholars. And with this, because now if you're able to build a big membership, then interactions can occur, not just between performances, but also between people who produce them, people who teach them, people who research about them. And that's why we call ASIA as an intercultural archive and not just intercultural, not just a digital archive. So, well, I spoke a lot because I've been in the project for 2 years.
The longest out of
So
all of us,
among all of
actually.
us, I'm actually the most senior member. So to speak. So I started off as just a student. I was just a graduate student, about to finish my masters. So there's a lot of history between Professor Yong Li Lan and I, because and also Dr. Robin Lun, the three of us kind of started this project together, where I was just running errands and we didn't quite know what we're aiming for and what we're doing. So I find great joy and pride to see our members, our group growing each day. And there's 3 more people who have just joined me in this project, and so I don't have to run the errands alone. But so the interesting thing for me is to actually understand how you all feel about the project and how it's helped you grow as a person, and also how it also helped you in your own research, because I understand your especially Shiroshi is going to start on her PhD and Ken is about to finish his PhD. So I would like to really know how, and also Daphne might pursue that intercultural data, so I'd just like to know how you all feel about the project. Maybe you can start with.
Okay, for me, the ASI is a quite special project because it's a kind of a linkage between my past and the present. My past, I mean, before I start my PhD, actually I worked for a Japanese governmental agency called Japan Foundation that initiated a lot of intercultural projects in the 1990s and early 2000s. So as a practitioner, I was involved in these intercultural productions quite a lot. And now I am doing a research on the interactions between Japanese and the Southeast Asian theaters. So ASIA is related to both of my past experience as a practitioner and the current research as a PhD candidate. So so ASIA is benefiting me in a very meaningful way for the reviewing my past, and also it also contributes to my current research as well.
Shiroshi, how about you?
For me, since I'm going to research in intercultural Shakespeare in particular, for me this has been very interesting and exciting at the same time, because it's for the first time that I'm experiencing intercultural Shakespeare, so to say, not from pages of a book, not as reference, but actually viewing productions. So there has been this trend of insularity in Asian Shakespeare for a very long time, and I'm glad something like ASIA is happening to break away from that insularity and encourage discourse, because for researchers like us, what is most important is there is no discourse on intercultural theatre, there is no platform to share, discuss ideas, and ASIA is providing that right platform for all of us to share our views on intercultural Shakespeare. And for me especially, the first time I met Dr. Young, I was so thoroughly excited because I could see all these productions in Japanese, Korean, Chinese. I didn't understand a word of it, nor do I now, but there is this strange sense of familiarity that has grown, and what is most interesting is you don't follow a single word of the production, but you still find resonances of your culture, trends of familiarity, which is very interesting not only for my research, but as personal experience of being in an intercultural environment. So yeah, Daphne?
Well, being the youngest member of the team, well, my experience has been a bit, well, it has been a steady stream of, well, pleasant surprise actually, because I was quite, well, surprised to have Dr. Young actually approached me to join the project, and I started out with a very minimal role in the project. I basically was sub-editor, and I did, help prepare materials for the online launch and stuff like that. But well, as time passed on, I actually found myself, while my role in the project actually evolved, and like I kind of began to take on more responsibility. And what I found to be very refreshing, as far as my experience in ASIA is concerned, is the fact that we don't really work in the traditional hierarchical kind of organizational structure. It's not really a top-down kind of thing. I'm not just a minion or a drone to be made to do things that, you know, I might not necessarily understand, but I'm fully integrated in the team. I have roles, responsibilities, and my opinions do matter. And I feel that this structure of ASIA is a very good one, for it allows its members to feel this sense of belonging and therefore, you know, like a very high amount of pride when you actually see the site take off, and we're all very integral to the group, and I think this is very different from other kinds of academic projects. So from my standpoint, I think, you know,
I think it's true. I mean, even when I first started, I mean, even though I say running the errands, but actually it involves a lot of decision making
yes,
as well.
especially in the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
it's a lot of responsibility, and it's precisely this trust that our directors gave us, and has allowed us to expand and grow as we are more involved in the project, because we really feel as we can grow with the project basically. So as you can really see, we make a lot, even in this small team, the NUS team, there's already kind of a diversified group of individuals working. And I think this kind of like it's like a small macrocosm of what constitutes the whole project, because we also have Japanese collaborators and Korean partners collaborator as well. So how does it feel to work in such a, well, not even multicultural, I mean now it's really quite an intercultural community of researchers. I mean, we don't really want to see ourselves as sub-editors, but also in some ways also part of a unique group of individuals. What do you think? How does it feel for you to work in this intercultural environment?
I think the ASIA is not intercultural just in content but in practice. That has been a key stress of the project, that it is a community, and it's a community attempt that we are taking, and it's a community who will sustain it for us, and we are just providing ingredients for thought to them. So that is, I think, one of the cardinal tenets of the project, that it is community project and it's intercultural in every way. So we kind of now understand the intercultural dynamics within this little team, so we know and how to function in this. So it is not through just reading about it, but in actual day-to-day work, and you work with people from various cultures, communities, you share ideas, you come to know about their cultures. So each new day is like learning a new thing in the project. That's what I feel.
It's true, because especially in terms of communication, I mean, the biggest problem is language, the barriers to language. I mean, even though English language would be like the kind of lingua franca between all of us, but still there's some subtleties and some cultural sensibilities you have to pay attention to, especially when, say, I write to the Japanese partners. Even though I'm writing in English, sometimes I actually still give those Japanese honorifics because I learn about them, and I call them dear Kaori-san, dear Michiko-san, and then I end off with like some Japanese, limited amount of Japanese that I learned through the project actually. So, and because we are a trilingual archive, I think it presents a lot more challenges than, say, building an English archive. So maybe we can talk a bit more about precisely what all these language barriers are. Maybe you're the translation editor, what do you think about this?
Actually, all of us, all the collaborators are quite comfortable to speak, to communicate in English. So in terms of that, there's no such thing as language barriers. But however, of course, there's always things that we cannot convey fully. Even if you are very fluent in English, for example, some terms or some very culturally specific terms cannot be translated fully into English. So that in terms of that, maintaining trilingual archive is such a big challenge for all of us, and we are really aware of the cultural sensibilities, in every aspect of the archive. So, so maintaining trilingual language is such a big challenge for all of us, especially as you said, none of us, except probably one, understand all three languages in a very sufficient manner. So it means that we are always try to keep our sensibilities as much as possible.
How do you manage, because you're a translation editor, how do you manage your team which will not be just Japanese translators?
Especially now that we are expanding and we are getting more translators into the
Yeah. For the first round, actually, we had only handful translators, and we had no problems in terms of the management because very few of us doing the same thing. So everybody knows each other actually. But now that our team is expanding very quickly, so that means that we need to find a way to maintain this kind of sensibilities among the translators. And also there's issues for the standardization of the terms. Because standardization of the terms or consistency is very, very important because our archive has a search feature, and if you have a variety of the terms used in the different script, probably it can be a very big issue for the if you try to search something in the archive. So this standardization will be a very big issue in the future, I believe.
I mean, it's actually already a big problem, right?
It is.
But having said that, I think all of us actually became more fluent in our own mother tongue in some aspect, because I have to work with Chinese scripts as well. So maybe for you as well, when you have to do the translation, you actually suddenly become more sensitive to your own language. Even Daphne would feel that because she has to work
even
with
Japanese.
you had to work with a multicultural script,
yes.
right? Like India.
It's a very difficult script for all of us because of the variety of languages in the script. But I think regardless of the case, as our team expands, management will be, might be a problem and stuff like that. But we're always glad to have more members on board than less, because when we first started out, it was really difficult because there was a serious shortage of translators, and this is a problem that is still ongoing. We need translators, and as a result, we also need the funds to actually hire translators, and so this is a problem I think we have to.
One would think that in Singapore we're able to get a lot of people because we are supposed to be bilingual and supposed to have a lot of the cosmopolitan city is supposed to get a lot. But I mean, but because it's Shakespeare and there's a certain sense of, because of language, the standards of the English language, especially in the Shakespeare's canon, it's just so difficult to find someone capable of handling that sort of high level. I actually think it's very high level of language skills, proficiency to translate those scripts.
And the language is like, for example, if you translate into Japanese, we need to know that there's a rich tradition of the translation of Shakespeare since the Meiji period 100 years ago. So we need to be aware that there's a rich tradition of the translation already, and we have to refer to these translations, and we have to learn from them. So it's not a simple language to simple translation from one language to the other, but it's a kind of a research project. At the same time, you need to refer to the rich history of the translation in the past.
What's interesting for us, what we actually learned, to sum it up, is that we have to pay particular attention to the past, but we're now working with new media, digital archiving, and again, then it poses a different challenge altogether. How can you be sensitive to tradition through this huge baggage, so to speak, and still present it in a very contemporary way with technology? So maybe we can talk a bit about how our technology has, in ways, poses challenges, but also help us present whatever materials we have.
You are the best person to talk about it.
Well, I guess for me the biggest issue, concern was really to protect our materials. We worked so hard to get copyrights. We have to honor them and pay the due diligence. So we started off with really finding technology or software that allows us to protect those files. So we had to try different softwares and different ways of programming, and finally after a few experiments we tried to download our own videos from the website and
Not possible.
it's not possible.
Yes.
So we definitely did a few experiments to ensure that there will be no illegal downloading of our videos. So we're quite pleased with that. But really, precisely because we have this intercultural community among ourselves in the internal team, we also would like to replicate it or even promote it in the online community. So that was the biggest challenge to the technology. I mean, yes, we have social networking softwares out there, but it's not actually really what we want, what we need. After all, we don't want to be a social networking website, right? So what can we learn from this social networking website and still
to integrate components of the social networking
Yes.
sites into our own archive, sort of.
So, I mean, you will know very well because now you are managing the forum. So, it's really to find a kind of, it's both interactive, intercultural, as well as trilingual. And I think the trilingual aspect of a project will always come back to us in many ways. But I don't see it as a barrier, but actually like precisely because if you are able to cater as many languages, I mean, ideally, then more people, more members will come into our website and interact with each other. Somehow they work. So, well, having said that, then because precisely of these precise objectives that we have in the project, so when we talk to the technology partner, we then have to suggest these functions that we want, and then they have to then provide for us. And they have been really good in it because they have helped to build the video player, for example, from scratch, and that allows the kind of text blocking to, we have specific requirements to have the text blocks, and not subtitles, precisely because we want that kind of like, to replicate the theatre environment where you actually have the subtitles at the side and it's the text running along with the performance. So we're really pleased with the results, as you can see, and we're trying to, and also we're using the most advanced streaming media technology, which also that help us stream high quality, high resolution videos. So, but I think the most exciting thing for all of us is really the search functions, because we have never actually seen such a presentation of searches. I mean, usually it's very linear and it's like, oh, you just key in the words and it's supposed to generate a whole list of information, but we felt that wasn't really our focus. It doesn't really represent what we are about.
Philosophy.
So we really, after development of the search bubbles, actually, it really help us kind of, it's basically fun to play with, right? I mean, you just click on the bubbles and it expands, and then you can explore. Because the first thing I noticed, I don't know, maybe you can talk a bit about your own experience with search bubbles, but the first thing I noticed is that it expands and it allows the kind of it allows me to explore. I could have been looking for, say, kabuki, and then I could have just gone to those search results that have kabuki, but precisely there's another bubble lurking beside my search result. I'm tempted to then press on it and find out what other information I can have, and then I realize more about the production. And precisely because I know more, and then I ask myself, oh, I didn't realize this, maybe I can go back to the video and watch it again. And so we're trying to integrate all these things together, all these elements of the website together, the search function and the video, and that's why we then had new function added in, which is the bookmarking. So it allows you to bookmark clips, meaning that you can go to specific points in the show, in the performance, and go to them, and then pause it, and then go back to your search results and see how it relates to each other, and then you can then just make notes and write your paper.
It's a very useful tool for teaching as well, presenting.
Yeah.
So we try to cater to as big a group as possible, not just practitioners or not just students, but we cater to practitioners, students, even the general audiences, teachers, and likes. And well, to add on to your comments about the search bubbles, as in personally, well, I feel it's a very engaging way of searching for items, because what we have on the site is actually a very organic way of looking at things. It doesn't really work like a search engine in the sense that it not only gives us our search results, but also provides an overview, provides some sort of a linkage whereby we can see not just how this one production can relate to another production, which might not have anything to do with, like, say for example, if I'm searching for Lear and something comes up which might not be Lear, but you know there's some elements which you know can be compared and stuff like that, which I feel is very it's very useful, and it's very good to look in an overarching way, just how Shakespearean adaptations are worked in Asia in that sense.
It boils down to the fact that it boils down to the nature of intercultural productions, where you use no. It doesn't mean you use no as a performance form. It can actually be a reference. It can actually be a like you just use the no stage, but actually you don't put on no on the no stage. And yet, because he is still there and that it comments itself, it performs itself. So we can't ignore those aspects. And so as long as it's in the data, we hope when some user uses it, if they can make sense of it and write something about it. I mean, it's also to generate research topics.
Generate research, definitely.
And to add to it, since I have worked in a traditional archive before, people in traditional archive are a little jittery, a little nervous about using technology. So the fun aspect about ASIA is people are excited about technology and we are ready to accept. There's such an openness about using technology to the utmost that we can, and at the same time keeping the user's interest in mind. So we kind of balance that. Another thing about new media archives is people tend to think that it's very casual. It's a more easier, faster way of doing things, but the amount of detailing that we do to make our stuff web-worthy is perhaps will change the perception about new media archiving in general. For being studying Shakespeare myself, the amount of importance that we have given to language in the archive as to using the correct Shakespearean diction, the correct Shakespearean, you know, line alignment, everything, the amount of detailing that we have done, and not only in English, since it's trilingual, our main concern is there's uniformity across the language. So Ken has had sleepless nights over Japanese scripts, and so has Alvin. So I think that amount of detailing, it's serious archiving, and it's no way casual. So I believe that this will at least make people realize that new media archiving can be a serious form of archiving, and using technology cannot be a hindrance to being meticulous, being detailed in approach. So that's something I would like to add.
That's a good point. I guess we can sum it up by talking a bit about our future aims. I've been gone through the whole 1.0 launch. I mean, we have to look beyond 1.0 and see what we would like to do. I mean, we're actually aiming for 90 productions with full streaming videos and metadata. But I guess what we now need to work together is to push towards that target. Having said that, I think some other aims would then include also to build our membership, and not just include students or scholars, but as many people as we can, because we also would like it to be kind of like, we want to also encourage practice-based research. So we need a lot of practitioners to be on the website as well. And I think what we are interested in is really to create events and not just like a depository of materials where people just come and get and go, where actually people stay and people interact, talk to each other, and even discuss future projects together.
Maybe even join us.
Join us.
We want them to join us.
I don't see ourselves as being very linear. I think the relationship is very mutual between. So our aim is really to build that kind of like community where we don't just generate the materials. User also generates materials. I mean, the best example now is that we actually have a group of Japanese students from Nagoya City University. Having joined the project, they, on their own initiative, approached one of our Japanese partners, Dr. Kari Kobayashi, and she then wrote them in and helped us. They're now helping us to do some editorial work, and that's actually very encouraging because it means that users, they go into, really regardless of whether they're students or scholars, because precisely they find the project exciting, they want to join us. So we have to find ways to generate precisely this kind of communication and relationships. And so maybe you also have to talk about your translation. What do you aim for your translations?
Yeah, as we discussed before, our translation team is becoming bigger and bigger, and now we have several young Japanese translators as well. So I wish that ASIA will eventually become a kind of a platform to nurture a community of younger generation translators, not only in Japan, but in China or in Korea as well. So I believe the ASIA can be a very, very good platform for generating a new generation translators.
How about you for your?
For my research, I think for me the most important part is the data, having access to it. I really want a community of researchers to be interested in it. We share our ideas through ASIA and rethink intercultural Shakespeare in some way from our own Asian perspectives, with our own individuality and with our own common trends that we share with each other. So I would like more researchers, people who are interested in intercultural Shakespeare, not researchers only, to share, to build a community of people who are interested in such similar things.
Well, for me, I think ASIA at this current moment, we should start aiming and focusing on publicity and marketing the site out, because whilst the content definitely can speak for itself, we want it to remain sustainable. We want it to be sustainable in the long run, and we need to maintain the site and keep it standard. And with that, we will need a lot of support from beyond just the teams. As you mentioned, we need people to join us, and we need people to actually want to access the site, and we need people to know about it. So marketing and focusing on publicizing ASIA with respect to our philosophy, I think this is something that we are aiming for, definitely.
So basically, I think, as Dr. Young puts it, our director, that we are trying to build this coral reef, as she puts it. We've chipped in our bit and we are still chipping in, but we want everyone else, the community in general, to come in their own little individual pools and contribute to the reef in some way. So I think, that's what we want in the long run.
I hope this sums up what ASIA is about, and thank you for your time. I hope you have understood our project, and please support us if you can. Thank you. Yes. So if you would like to have a demo of our website, you can actually log on to our website, and there's on the right hand corner there's an eye icon there, and just click on it and watch. Or you can watch after this interview. There's going to be a short clip of the demo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.